Hey, all Scott here. Online personality test. I have no idea who I am, so just let Google tell me. You have to shout to make a point properly. Yeah. Did you eat anything today? Tylenol. Do you just want to plug and play games? Do I have a face? I won!
So you have a video game console, right?
Welcome to the club.
And you have to plug it into the wall, then plug it into the TV, then plug in a controller, then play it. This isn't plug and play technology. Have you been keeping track of the plugs at play here? I just want to plug something in once, and I'm done, and it has a nose.
I wasn't expecting an answer this soon.
Plug and play games were the sole reason some bin in my living room's corner had purpose. If you didn't own at least one of these from 02 to 09, did you even exist? These things were the thing back in the 2000s. They came in these big fat boxes and proudly proclaimed, plug it in and play. See, no power adapter or extra controllers were necessary. All you had to do was pop in a couple of batteries and plug this directly into your TV with the yellow and white cables. Or I don't know, they could be forks, I'm colorblind. These things could be anything. Composite cables, one for video and one for sound. And if you're good enough, another one for sound. Once you were done with the setup, you'd flick the switch on the controller and boom. Look at this, no power adapter necessary. It plugs directly into the TV. This is magical.
Plug and plays were always charming little distractions, and they were easy gift ideas for kids. They were only like 20 bucks a pop, and you didn't have to think about what game console your kid had. All you had to know was, oh, my son likes circles, this'll do. But many times these plug and play games felt like an excuse to sell subpar games inside of a colorful container. Like, I don't want to play this, I want to eat it.
The core plug and play brand I remember was by Jack's Pacific, but they weren't the first of their kind. The TV Boy from the 90s was the first plug and play many will point towards. It repurposed Atari 2600 games and included over 100 of them in an oval. Technology was evolving and fast. This was more of a bootleg console though. Pretty much all of the games included weren't properly licensed and had their names changed. But what the TV Boy did was not only obtain a cease and desist, but also set the standard for plug and play games in the future. Power them with batteries and utilize older technology. And one of the first ones to do this, legally, was the Activision 10-in-1 byte Toymax in the year 2000. While not 100% confirmed, many do believe this was the first of the modern plug and plays. You have the cables, the logo, the legality, it has it all. This device features 10 Activision classics from the Atari 2600, so you know what that means, it looks like this. Yes, this is the controller you'd associate with the games included on this plug and play, and then this is the plug and play you wouldn't be able to identify in the street. So the on and off switch and reset buttons are on the shoulders, cool, and we have 2 D-pads, cool, with one acting as the buttons, cool, and the game selection. Cool, this one isn't too great. The design's not ideal, and surprisingly the games aren't much better. But you gotta give this plug and play credit where credit's due. It started a revolution. Jack's Pacific started up their line of plug and play consoles shortly afterwards and truly popularized this kind of stuff, and soon everybody was making them. These were the ones I owned back in the day. See, I may have had a GameCube and Game Boy Advance, but that didn't mean I wasn't interested in playing worse games. The Atari plug and play is modeled directly after the original Atari 2600 joystick, and quite well at that. Everything feels exactly how it should here, and that means it doesn't feel great, but they did a fantastic job recreating the experience of the Atari 2600, and it was my first and best experience with the console's catalog. Technically speaking, these are recreations of the games, not 100% the same as the original 2600 versions, though they were made to be as close as possible. I played a lot of Breakout and Pong and Centipede and tried to understand the context of Yar's Revenge as a kid. These games, while nothing crazy, were fun enough to warrant untangling this thing from time to time. This device may have been one of the first stepping stones to me liking games nobody gives a shit about anymore. Of course, I brought up previously how it was strange I had so many of these things when I had perfectly working game consoles at hand, but the Atari plug and play offered something those consoles didn't. The unique controller. You could have just bought an Atari compilation on the Xbox, but are you really playing Atari with this thing? So that's one thing the plug and plays had over traditional game systems. The controllers could be whatever they felt like. Oh, we'll get to this one. The Pac-Man plug and play by Jack's Pacific. Everybody had this one. Me, Scott, everybody. 5 Namco classics at play here. Pac-Man, Galaxian, Rally X, Dig Dug, and Bosconian. Back in the day, I called this list Pac-Man, Galaxian, Rally X, Dig Dug, and what? This is an alright collection. These games aren't one-to-one with their arcade originals, but they're better than playing the old NES versions, and also better than a bunch of the compilation discs on consoles, because here, we have a joystick. Of course, using this now doesn't feel as good as I remember. It feels a little clunky, the stick doesn't feel substantial enough, unit isn't big enough to really fully use the stick like I would on a real arcade machine, but it was a decent joystick at the time, and all these games are factually more fun with a joystick. Of course, they followed this up with a Ms. Pac-Man plug and play featuring different and better games. Ms. Pac-Man, Galaga, Xevious, Mappy, and Pole Position. I got so much mileage out of both of these plug and plays, and this was where my love for the Namco arcade games began. What's interesting about the Ms. Pac-Man unit is Pole Position is controlled by twisting the head of the joystick. I didn't know that as a kid, and when I tried playing the game, the car would never move. Now, how did I never know that, considering there are multiple signs showing that this is how you control pole position?
Oh, hey, it's my friend. I don't know how I didn't realize I had to twist the joystick in pole position. I was just a kid. Leave me alone.
I hate my parents.
These two were my most played plug and plays, but of course, it's impossible to ignore for much longer. My fourth plug and play was the Etch-a-Sketch plug and play. It never worked. It came with a cartridge. Why? Like, the cart came in the box with the plug and play, and it was the only cart released for the plug and play, so why make a cartridge slot on the plug and play if there's only one cartridge for it and you could just build the elements of the cartridge on the inside of the plug and play?
What the f***? Etch-a-Sketch?
I don't have this one anymore, so I'll throw the concept of it to the side and make way for my true final plug and play I owned as a kid. Corroded batteries. Wish I would have known about that before making that pact. The SpongeBob SquarePants plug and play. It, of course, isn't a collection of old games, but it kind of is. It features 5 games made specifically for this unit, and each of them is incredibly similar to another retro classic. I wouldn't consider these to be full-on rip-offs, rather friendly plagiarism. This game's similar to Breakout, this one's Life Force, this one's Missile Command, this one's Zelda, and this one's Donkey Kong. But strangely, these are all pretty fun time wasters. The controls feel really solid, and I honestly think Bubble Pop in this game is better than Breakout on the Atari plug and play. And the stick itself is great. I mean, come on, somebody thought of this. There's a fact for you. But while playing, the stick broke and doesn't register the direction of down. This broke right before playing the Donkey Kong ripoff. It's all the way down there. I can't access it anymore, and all I can possibly do with this plug and play now is play Bubble Pop. I'm okay with this. So these were the main ones I owned. Wait, actually, I did have an Intellivision one because all 9-year-olds love Intellivision. That was alright, though I remember the controller feeling really cheap and generic. I mean, this is what an Intellivision controller is, so let's play Spot the Difference. It seems like various plug and plays reused old assets, whether it was games, game design, graphics, sound effects, menus, or even the controller shell itself. Where's the evidence? Well, look no further than RCA TV joypad console. So this uses the same controller design as my old Intellivision one, and just makes me ask, why is there a joystick and a D-pad, and how is this a D-pad? It's more hubcap than D-pad. I would ask why this is necessary for Intellivision games, but who knows, maybe this controller design was tailor-made for RCA TV joypad console. You know, I always associate RCA with TV remotes, so they're one of my top 7,000 candidates for making a good game console.
Top 8,000.
So I think we covered pretty much the 3 types of plug and plays. The official old school throwbacks, the licensed kids games that usually ripped off other games gracefully, and then RCA TV joypad console. This is a collection of cheap, low quality games that have been spread around to various other generic consoles like this. But hey, I mean, if you want to play Roadstar, don't. There's also Go Bang Animal Pool. That's not a sentence, it was a list. Well, that was my collection of plug and plays as a kid. Kind of. Now, these were frequently played by me, which is weird to think about. I mean, pretty much all of these had outdated and subpar graphics, and I always had better quality stuff playable on my actual game consoles. But most of the games included on these things were addictive, high score-based titles. Games you could just pop in, play for a bit, and pop out. These were solid games to have on these things because when you wanted to play them, you just plug it and play. You didn't have to worry about making room on the power outlet or anything. Of course, being battery powered meant more times than not when I'd want to play one of these things, I'd pull it out of storage and go, oh fucking shit, I left this thing on for a month. It kept things simple though. Now, why do all of them require a screwdriver to access the batteries? I don't know, this is a bit of a pain. But hey, there were tons more plug and play, specifically by Jack Specific. There was Spider-Man, Pinball, Poker, Mortal Kombat, Fantastic Four, Scooby-Doo, Batman, Star Wars, Capcom, Superman, 1 vs. 100, WWE, DreamWorks, I'm forgetting thousands more. But here are just a few more I've picked up recently. Atari's back, and this time with a knob! The Atari Paddle Plug and Play, similar to the joystick, but this time we're replicating the original paddle controller, which allows for smooth as butter movement in games like Pong and Breakout. Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. See, Wheel of Fortune has an actual wheel. What did you do today? This is a good one, even if it didn't accept my answer for what a slogan might be. The elephant attacks that. It was curiously strong mint. The wheel feels great, and Wheel of Fortune makes a ton of sense as a plug and play. Now Jeopardy, if you play with 3 people, you can buzz in as others. It's great. The Disney Plug and Play features a couple of games based on various Disney characters. This is most similar to the SpongeBob one. Each game is of a different style. The first one, you have to change the direction of the bridges to make a clear-cut path. So I constantly failed at the first level, but afterwards I swept the floor with Timon to the rescue. We have a Lilo and Stitch platformer, Duck Golf. No, that can't work. Aladdin's another platformer that feels a bit similar to Aladdin on the Super Nintendo. It might just be because you can throw apples in this one too, but it ends with a very basic puzzle game based on The Lion King. You know, that's 2 Lion King based games in one whole thing. I don't like how the Disney logo is slanted because I keep thinking that's the top of the device and accidentally point the joystick in the wrong direction. But hey, these plug and plays always have such fun designs. At least the joystick looks like a circle. Well, to quote me at the end of this sentence, there's always an EA Sports one. Yeah, the EA Sports plug and play, shaped like a Sega Genesis controller. It comes with Madden 95, NHL 95, and fingers crossed Timon to the rescue. Damn it. See, I enjoyed the fact this exists, but my god. 2 sports games from the 90s that stores would pay you to take from them, included in a Sega Genesis controller you plug directly into your TV. I like when these plug and plays offer unique-ish games or games with controllers you couldn't get on regular game consoles. This one's a bit too worthless for my liking, but it's kind of neat. But hey, at least it's fairly G-rated. Sure, you can combine the letters from the title screen to spell ass rat, but I'm sure the kids wouldn't notice. So what about a plug and play for the adults? Well, here's World Poker Tour, rated M. Actually, the M rating is a sticker, and peeling it off reveals the original rating was E. Well, it's a good thing they reconsidered. Can you imagine kids playing this? I can't. I don't want to imagine the world burning the down. There's an LCD screen on this unit, and it comes with a bonus DVD. Well, don't mind if I do. The game itself, oh man, it reminds me of something. I can't remember. Poker! The final Jack-specific plug-and-play I have is a Nicktoons one, focused on various Nickelodeon cartoons. It just came in the mail, so let's cut it open and take a... Alright, they can't all be winners. For some reason, Jack shipped this unit with the wires pre-cut. That's unfortunate. It's lame because I actually had an accessory for this specific unit too. A game key. That should show you how popular these devices were. They actually got accessories like this released for them. Game keys were made for specific plug-and-plays that had cartridge slots. You could buy these and expand the game selection on these things. It's really weird because I thought the entire point of these things was that they were way simpler than game consoles. You didn't have to worry about what game system your kid had. You could just buy them a plug-and-play and know for a fact they will be able to play it. But then you start releasing game cartridges that work with specific plug and plays, and all this one says is that it works with Nickelodeon controllers. I wouldn't be surprised if some moms bought their kids a game key because they had a Nickelodeon plug and play that didn't have a game key slot. Here's a power adapter for Jack specific plug and plays. My god, with the game key and this is starting to become a lot more than just plug and play. Jack specific really rolled with the plug and play success for a while, which meant they made some really dumb stuff, but they weren't the only company to not give a shit. Various others made their own plug and plays. For example, Toymax. They were bought by Jack Pacific. RCA. They stunk. But here we have a Tetris plug and play by Radica. It's your basic Tetris. You have a few different modes, the traditional Tetris theme, solid visuals, 2 players right out of the box. You can just attach the second controller included. This is hell. This controller is abysmal. All they had to do was put a D-pad and a button, but no, they had to make it unique. So you move this block as a joystick to move your piece and twist it to rotate. Not only is this control scheme really lousy for Tetris, the control stick itself is wildly stiff. I don't know why they felt the need to make it like this when they could have easily saved money by using a traditional controller. Hell, even the RCA controller would have been better. How about Crayola Electronic Coloring Book? I don't know why I'm disappointed. TV Wild Adventure Mini Golf. There better not be any ducks or I'm gonna fucking lose it. So this is interesting. It's a motion control golf game. You adjust your shot like this and wave the golf club over the sensor. Problem is, waving anything will register it as a hit, so as long as you keep the sensor covered, your character will constantly putt. Here's another gimmicky one, American Idol Dance Showdown. American Idol, you know, the competition show about singing. Here's a dancing game. It's a blatant clone of Dance Dance Revolution. You get a mat, you lay it out, and step on the right arrows at the right time. See, it's fine, but I personally feel that plug and plays work best when they supplement what you can do on a home console with unique controllers instead of just offering a version of DDR that a dollar store can sell. So that should give you a pretty good idea as to what the plug and plays were back in the mid-2000s, but that doesn't mean they aren't still readily available today, though I have no idea who's still buying them. Modern plug and play. So most of the ones I see look like this. Big box, white joystick, white buttons, cheap fonts. This company MSI is responsible for a lot of these, and their website features Mario fan art. They have never worked with Nintendo. So these are blatantly incredibly cheap. Many of them reuse the same joysticks that already don't feel great to begin with. But for some reason they decided to swap the placements of the joystick and buttons for a few of them. Most of these are just one NES game inside a joystick, and they all stink. They work, but they aren't a great way to play these games. So much about this doesn't make any sense. So you wanted to make a plug and play for people who were nostalgic over Mega Man 2 on the NES? So you put it in a controller absolutely nobody played this game with? Like seriously, why a joystick? Why not something that at least resembles an NES controller? Plus, like I said, a lot of these only contain one game. This Space Invaders one, like seriously, is just Space Invaders. There have been so many other Space Invaders plug and plays before this with multiple games. This one, just Space Invaders. And it's not even that accurate to the arcade version. It's the Famicom version. Who played the Famicom version? Double Dragon. I mean, I will give this the benefit of the doubt. The batteries might be in here a bit wobbly. See, that's a problem with a lot of these units. Graphical problems if the batteries aren't fully in or are starting to go. But God, this looks bad. And it's just Double Dragon 1 on the NES. If you have the joystick, why not have the arcade version instead or include it alongside this? WrestleMania, yeah, just the NES game in the same joystick. Why don't I hear anybody talk about how garbage this company is? But hey, I found this Pac-Man one at Walmart recently. It's actually pretty good. The design may not be the most comfortable, and sure, having the wires contained at the bottom with a lid may sound like a good idea, but just ends up making it more complicated to put away because now I have to cram all the wires back in and not lose the lid. But the stick and buttons feel pretty alright, and the game selection is pretty solid. It even includes the final level of Pac-Man where it's a full-on unbeatable glitch. It's sort of completely useless, but it's neat to be able to play it, as I'm sure most of us haven't gotten 256 levels into Pac-Man. I'm not a fan of having to do a combination of button presses to go back to the menu. I would have just preferred a menu button or something. But this is a solid newer plug and play. Of course, there are these Games products, the Blast units. They're wireless controllers connecting to HDMI dongles. A lot of people give Games what for since their quality isn't the greatest, but man, this is so much better than MSI. Who the hell wakes up and says, I'm okay with these existing?
Plug and plays were a product of the mid-2000s, and while they're still around, I don't necessarily ever seeing them become nearly as big. They somewhat had a resurgence after Nintendo kickstarted the mini classic console craze. Some people call these little systems plug and play. I retaliate with, look at all these plugs. See, on the surface, these things may seem nothing more than cheap toys with extremely basic games for children. That sentence was finished long ago. I do have a lot of great memories with these things though, and none of them were groundbreaking or anything, but they were fun, quick pick-me-ups. Even if the games were incredibly basic, many were actually designed quite well, and basing the gameplay off of old school arcade games, or just offering old school arcade games to play, I think that gave a lot of young kids a greater appreciation of classic games. Of course, none of these I desperately want to go back to, and bring them back today doesn't work. I mean, these worked so well back in the mid-2000s because most TVs had composite inputs on the front. Now with HD TVs, if they even have composite inputs, they're on the back. And even then, plug and plays, most of the time, way more.
What's that pear that pecks that bunch? The unique taste so creamy with a crunch. PB and C is what I'm thinking of, and it only could be found in my Reese's Puffs. Peanut butter chocolate, great when separate, but when they combine, they make the morning time epic. Morning time epic. Morning time epic. REESES. Yes.
It's the perfect combination of peanut butter and chocolatey flavor. Reese's Puff cereal, part of a complete breakfast.
P to the U double Reese's.
Hey kids, follow the bouncing plate. Oink, oink, zoo pals. Buzz, buzz, zoo pals. Quack, quack, zoo pals. Zoo pals make eating fun. When you clean your plate, then you see their face. Hoot, hoot, zoo pals. Ribbit, ribbit, zoo pals. Woof, woof, zoo pals. Zoo pals make eating fun. Zoo pals.
I have a structured settlement and I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
I have an annuity, but I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now. 877 cash now.
They have thousands, they'll help you too. One lump sum of cash they will pay to you. Get long-term payments, but you need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
877 cash now.
877 cash now.
877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
scratches. Grrr! Oh, the bane of us collectors of weird, outdated junk. You know, it looked good on eBay, but then you get it and you're like, oh man, looks like someone's dragged along the road in some sort of sadistic test against a flash-modded iPod. Where the hard drive actually won, it still works. This guy, most amazing hard drive ever. This thing works great. It looks like sadness. So, we're gonna fix it and we're gonna use everyday normal stuff. So you can invest in like these expensive polishers. Oh, hang on. There we go. You can invest in these and they work, but man, are they expensive. Brasso. You can get this stuff from supermarkets, metal polish. Yeah, on the soft plastics of iPods, it just does wonders. People have been using them on their reading glasses. It doesn't really do anything to these ones, by the way. You can clean the screen, but yeah. So on a normal scratched iPod, you just get a nice soft cloth. T-shirt works great, and you just buff until all your scratches go away. This one's a little more advanced, so we're gonna have to try some more advanced methods. Let's get rid of this. Very, very disrespectful. Oh, that was my knuckle. I am an old man. Hot tamale, go! Hot diddly dungus. Yeah. What a great job I did. Before we start polishing, what even is polishing? Well, effectively, we're removing a layer. Like each one of these scratches is just a low point. You know, we've all had those before. And so what we want to do is we want to take the top surface to the scratch's lowest point, and effectively, it's gone. Now, what's a video without an amazing thumbnail? Come on, we got to do something to get that thumbnail. It's good enough for who it's for. So yeah, polishing is removing material. That's what this stuff does. That's what car polish does. You're taking a layer off. So, Brasso, maybe with a million years and just going and going and going, you might be able to get it down there, but we need some help. So we're gonna call on household ingredient number 2, sandpaper. The number on there is important because it tells us how gritty it is. So the higher the number, the finer it is. That means there's more particles on it. 320, that's pretty standard stuff, you know. But what we want is the really fine stuff. 1200 grit, and then finally 2000 grit. This stuff feels like velvet. It is so fine. But this is what we want. That's gonna cut down the big scratches, and this is gonna fine it up a little bit. I mean, you know, working down, you go down to 120, there's 80, 60, and mate, if that's not getting the job done, you bust out your 1 grit and you get her done right. Household ingredient number 3, mate, big celebrity, local hero, the WD. The WD is gonna act as a lubricant, which is gonna help lift all the stuff that we're scratching off of these effectively and help us clean it up. These deep gouges, all this dirt's actually going to be really useful because I just need to sand until the dirt goes away and then we're at the lowest point. There! So that's with the 1200 grit, that's as coarse as we're gonna go, and you know, already it's pretty friggin' good. Like, I'd be happy with that. Now we hit it with the 2000. No lie, it's pretty amazing. It's just a little bit cloudy, but there you go. That's how fine that sandpaper is. I was rubbing as hard as I could. Now is when it's the Brasso time. This is like a sandpaper so fine, it's a liquid.
You're a little dabble, do you, mate?
And now you just keep polishing until you like it. If you still don't like it, polish it again. And if you still don't like it, polish it again. And again. And again, and again, and again. Now for the back case, I usually don't care. That's just a sacrificial lamb for an iPod for me. That's why it's made of metal. It's just gonna be sitting face up on stuff all the time. I've put new back panels on iPods before, only to watch it suck scratches from across the room onto it. Unbelievable. You handle it so carefully and it still gets scratched. So who cares, in my opinion? But I got a Dremel polishing tool. Mate, with Brasso's metal polish, Dabberoonie will do ye.
And last touch, icy probe. I mean, ooh, baby, look at that. Oh, and before we move on, that little buffing wheel Dremel thing, don't use it on the front. It's very abrasive. Maybe you got the feng shui to make it work. I thought it just turned into a cloudy mess. But here we go. Time to remove the tape. Amazing thumbnail material. You've already seen the thumbnail. I haven't. Here we go. So gross. Two-Face, the iPod. Sandpaper and Brasso. This is so cheap. And like looking at the back, is that worse? Is that worse? Let's not look at the back. Oh, the front though, big impress. I'm impressed with myself. I'm a genius. Now for the back